Let's try this again. Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Monday, 2018, November 5th. Thanks for tuning in. Take a look at our solar wind speeds right now at 516.9 kilometers per second with a density of 5.7. I was talking about how we had a G2 storm overnight last night. So November 4th was the start of this storm. It started as a G1 and then overnight last night sparked up to a G2 with a KP of 6. So our sun is blank once again, giving us 18 straight days without sunspots. That's 184 for 2018. Our TCI reading is at 41 billion watts. That's billion watts. Taking a look at our KP, now we are sitting at a 3. So the KP indices are dropping. We are no longer in storm conditions. And our 24-hour max was at a 6. And taking a look at the SDO right now, we see the front of our star is peppered with minor coronal holes, but there is a little bit, one of a bigger size that is kind of coming into Earth facing as we speak. Let's take a look at the SDO in motion. And there's our next coronal hole that we could see a brief uptick in solar wind. Not sure about any kind of geomagnetic unrest. However, we are seeing this coronal hole growing as it turns around towards Earth. Still no sunspots.
Hey Jake, how are you doing today? I'm just going to tweak your mic a little bit because we're getting several reports that people have low volume. I'm just going to... This is what it was set at before. I was doing audio before, but a little bit closer range than you, so try that. We're good.
All right, so looking at our star, no active regions as of yet to name of for any kind of sunspots. Take a look at over here at SPACEWEATHER Live, another website I'd like to refer to when it comes to this kind of information. Take a look at the backside. And there we have it. Right now we are looking at that coronal hole. No sunspots, possibly an active region just around the eastern limb, but really guys, nothing promising at this point. So we are 18 days in a row without a sunspot. That streak's going to live for a little bit longer for sure. Taking a look at our TSI reading for October 28th, 2018, came in at a 1360.68. Staying below that 0.7 value as they have consistently been declining in the TSI readings here in the past several days. Taking a look at some headlines here. Destructive floods hit desert state of Red Sea, northeastern Sudan. Heavy rains affecting the state of Red Sea in northeastern Sudan caused severe floods, claimed lives of at least 4 people, destroyed agricultural fields and homes, and drowned hundreds of farm animals. The worst affected since October 28th was a town called Tokar, also called Takar, a town of about 40,000 people located near the Red Sea in the northeastern Sudan. Heavy floods affecting the town killed at least 4 people. It says here November 1st, cut off roads connecting Tokar and Port Sudan, Red Sea state capital with a population of about 500,000. Authorities said the torrential rain started on October 31st over much of the Red Sea, but this region was already flooded a week before when a young man drowned in the eastern part of Port Sudan. Floods have also affected Erbat and its agricultural fields north of Port Sudan. The town's water and electricity supply was disrupted, and hundreds of livestock and poultry have been killed. Now, they've been seeing a lot of rain here since October 28th. According to officials here, mid-August rains and flash floods during this year's rainy season have left at least 61 others injured and displaced more than almost 9,000 families since July of 23rd of 2018 in Sudan. Dozens of people drowned in swollen rivers in the past months, according to Radio Dabanga. In August 22nd, school children and a hospital employee drowned when a boat capsized and sank in the Nile River in Nile State. Taking a look at these radar maps here, the accumulation of moisture that we're going to see once again in this region. This is their rainy season, but This is back-to-back for them as far as storms and flooding is concerned. We'll leave a link in the description. And once again, our thoughts and our prayers are with folks here in Italy as another part of their country is getting ready to go through another round of torrential rainfall and heavy snowfall for northwest Italy, November 6, 2018. Northwestern Italy is in for yet another round of torrential rainfall over the next 48 hours. Rainfall totals up to 200 to 300 millimeters are expected locally, and at a higher elevation, over 100 centimeters of fresh snow is expected. We take a closer look here. It says the region will be under the effects of a new cutoff low, yet another one, which will slowly move from the Iberian Peninsula, western Mediterranean eastwards towards Italy, slowly transforming into a long wave trough. Strong southerlies and southeasterlies will again avert warm and moist air masses from the further south in the Mediterranean. It will bring trying to see if we're back yet. Apparently we are having some communication issues for the last couple of nights actually. Last night with Henrik we experienced these difficulties where YouTube was pushing up our time and we had to keep rescheduling it. And then we were interrupted 3 times during our broadcast last night. The first time was at the 13-minute mark. Tonight was a little bit earlier. Mari, do we have the all go yet, dear?
Yes.
All right, great. So sorry about the interruption there. Again, I was recommending severe-weather.eu for all your European weather information, as well as those of you who are on Twitter. Make sure you look for the Starman. He gives great tweets. He shows his work on Twitter mainly. He also has a WordPress website that I think we do have that link in our website, thegrandsolarminimum.com, under the resources. If not, we will have to get that in the description. But Starman does excellent work, and this is another backup as far as Severe Weather Europe goes. Another website that can produce a little bit more information as well besides us. Below normal temperature is accumulating snow. Winter weather advisory will go into effect earlier today in Bitterfoot and Sapphire Mountain. Snow accumulations of 4 to 8 inches will be expected above 4,500 feet. A wintry mix of rain and snow today with highs in the 30s and 40s. Light snow accumulations are possible into the overnight hours tonight as well. We are tracking our next weather maker that will bring the threat to the valley floors as early as Tuesday night. Valley locations could see a trace to 3 inches of snow through Wednesday. Daytime highs will range from the upper 20s to the mid 30s. A break from the rain and snow will arrive by Thursday, but below average temperatures will stick around. Expect to see daytime highs only into the 30s for the remainder of the week. And mind you, this is still the first week of November. Getting cold a little bit quicker, I think. We showed you guys Dr. Roy Spencer's chart where October's numbers did come in a little bit higher than September, but where we were last year at this time was at a 0.63 degrees Celsius above baseline. So we're already cooler this time this year than we were last year at this time. And also, it's safe to mention that we have been struggling to get out of the 0.4 value for the temperatures above baseline. So this has been hovering right in the values between 0.20 degrees Celsius and 0.30 degrees Celsius consistently this year. But again, we're seeing cooler temperatures earlier as well this year, definitely. I know some folks are okay with early snows, but a lot of us had a lot of shoveling to do last winter, and I am definitely not looking forward to it. While we're talking about snow, so last night on our show with Henrik, this is how far we got to see the snowfall in North America through the 14th of November. Already some changes have been made as this snowfall is becoming more widespread. Now this is the blues, the dark blues is 1 to 2 inches. Nothing to really write home about. And most of the heavier snow is in Canada. Parts of Maine, you're going to see some. Of course, in the upper elevations of Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Colorado. But this is interesting here. Something to watch for in the middle of November. And I'll take a look at it here on the GFS as well. But as I move this forward through the 14th, there's a snow swath that begins to develop in southern Ohio, from southeast Ohio through central Ohio, northeast Ohio, into western Pennsylvania, into western New York, and it really picks up in the central part of New York, near Syracuse, Rochester. You guys might see a possibility of this is light green here in this area in western New York. I've got a feeling that we're going to be looking at one of our first lake effect snow events. But the odd part about this is that this swath, the way it comes in, it looks like it's part of a storm system that's going to be making its way through the Northeast at that point in time. So really, just a lot of moisture with this system, and the temperatures appear to be colder for that time of day. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. Why not? GFS. I got a couple more articles I want to share. Not only is Montana talking about the snow, also here in Cleveland, Ohio, they are expecting their first snowfall. But also, if you also look here in this map, Buffalo, western Pennsylvania, this is kind of like a primer for what's to come later on this month here in less than a week, or about a little over a week here to come. So, did check the Lake Erie temperatures as well, and they are at average at 53 degrees Fahrenheit in the Rochester location. 52 near Buffalo. So 52, 53 is about average for this time of November. But let's look at our GFS before we finish off the rest of the articles, since I'm already kind of into the whole snow thing here. We're looking at this low pressure system that's moving in tomorrow for the election. Southwest Ohio, that's already here. Taking a look at our live radar right now, there's that system right now that's creeping into Southwest Ohio. Indiana, you're getting soaked right now. Parts of Michigan starting to get showers more widespread. And we will continue to watch this, as this won't be the only weather maker here in the coming future. But we take a look right now. Snow in the northwest, inundating, falling into the Rockies, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana. But we're going to watch this heavier precipitation here in the Ohio, Tennessee, Kentucky valleys as we go through onto the 6th. Into Tuesday evening, that storm races up to the northeast. Temperatures will be in the mid-50s in this region, so this will be an all-rain event. But I gotta say something. Right now, this storm that we are dealing with here in upstate New York, I gotta say that this was not called for in yesterday's forecast. We were supposed to get some rain this morning, but yet it almost seems like the atmosphere has just enough moisture to carry. It's been raining all day in upstate New York when we were forecasted just morning rain. So I wanted to point that out as well. We got a little bit of rain today as well. Moving into Tuesday, tomorrow is where we expect the heavier stuff, and snow on the back end of this, mainly in the northern plains. That storm system's off to the Atlantic, and with it comes a cold front that will bring us maybe some flakes in upstate New York and New England by Thursday, November 8th. But as we go into the weekend, that colder air pushes further south. And on Friday, we're looking at a potential system developing here, Oklahoma, Iowa, Missouri, into Illinois, and then kind of getting its act together as we go in. All right, so again, right on cue, just like last night, the first 10 minutes. Twice now we have
well, 3 times, because there was another time where it went to a blank YouTube screen and just did nothing.
I hope this is a YouTube-wide glitch with broadcast. I don't know. I haven't watched any other live events on YouTube, but we are back, as I was saying, leaving off here next weekend, looking at another cold front coming into the Northeast, dipping as far south into the Midwest. But, you know, guys, this cold front isn't going to go much further south through the middle of November for the most part. We're going to be a 50-50 from that line of southern Ohio across the eastern part of the United States, the Midwest. And then we start to see this trend right here where this cold front just dips down to the middle of the country and kind of levels out, but keeps us cold for the majority northern part of the United States here on November 12th. Again, we see some snow in upstate New York. That could be lake effect. Another system developing in the middle of the country as high pressure above that system is pushing that snow a little further south, and that's actually what gets a little bit more colder air into the panhandle of Texas. By next Tuesday, so a week from tomorrow, we could see freezing temperatures in the panhandle parts of Texas. Also, guys, this was only forecasted in the panhandle. This one looks like it could go as far south as Houston. That's next Tuesday. Short-lived, as Wednesday things kind of rebound a little bit. And watch this new system, another low-pressure system that forms a little bit further south. And this one might be the first big winter storm. I said it a couple nights ago, starting around the 12th of November, we might see the makings of a system here. And boy, look at this. Dayton, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, Chillicothe, Ohio. Heavy snowfall expected for midweek next week. Look at this. And that goes all the way in. This is where the GFS showed that heavy swath of snow developing. Here's that low pressure system. And look at the jet stream, guys. Look at where our cold air and warm air are. This is just very irregular. I mean, the difference between the where you see the cold air dipping down, and then you have maybe like a half-ass dip here in the northwestern part of the country. Very complex system here. Going through the 15th, lots of snow into northeast Ohio, Cleveland, Erie, Pennsylvania, Buffalo, New York, Rochester, Syracuse. You guys are going to get pounded with this snow system. Right now, this one looks to be like a significant snowmaker. And as it moves off into next weekend, everybody in the Northeast will get snow showers on Friday, and then into the weekend on Saturday, things start to quiet down a bit. Now, high pressure is also dominating once again after that big system goes through. And then once again, we start seeing more irregular patterns from this jet stream. But guys, look at on the 19th. Look at the size of this low pressure system that's up in Canada. The massive snow amounts that will be dropped from that storm. And thankfully, this is the result of a El Nino pattern, I believe. And that's why the bigger parts of this snow that might otherwise be here in the lower 48 is staying in Canada. Parts of the Northeast, we might start seeing some snow showers on the 21st of November. But lo and behold, after the 16th, we get about a 5-day break from any kind of major system. And then it looks like once again we've got another low pressure system forming right over the Ohio Valley. The Michigan, your turn again for snow as cold air is already settled into the Northeast. And I've looked at temperatures in the long range, and we are going to be below freezing for nighttime lows starting on Wednesday of this week here in the Northeast. So the ground is definitely going to start to freeze, but keep our eyes on this storm here, guys, on the 14th, the 13th. The makings of this, guys. This looks like, I mean, this is a perfect example of how this moisture could be drawn out from the Gulf. It rides up the East Coast, similar to as a nor'easter, and it almost mutates again, like it redevelops into the United States. So this storm could be a big storm here, and this is just the beginning of the idea of the forecast for the 14th. As this thing really gets its act together, deep cold front coming through all the way down to Georgia. I mean, this thing's indicating this cold air is going to spill into the Gulf of Mexico. The peak of it looks like Thursday, the 15th. Cold air still threatening the Florida Panhandle, as that by the end of the 15th, we start to see this thing moving away. But heads up, we'll keep our eyes on this. This might be the first big winter storm here in the lower 48 for 2018-2019 winter season. We'll keep our eyes on it. Temperatures are getting cooler, so this is a good chance. Now, let's be real. It hasn't been below freezing for very long in these areas, so whatever snowfall we do get, I'm going to suspect it's going to be a very slushy mix. It's going to cover our grass is pretty good, but it should keep the pavement free and clear. Now, if this storm continues to develop as heavy as it appears, there's a good chance we might have some snow-covered roads. But I think that's more likely to happen in southeastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania, northeastern Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, and Buffalo, New York. South towns especially. You guys look like you'll probably get you're in the bullseye. Southtown, Buffalo, Western Pennsylvania, Cleveland, Ohio, Northeastern Ohio, you guys are definitely in the bullseye of the heaviest of the snowfall from that particular storm. So everybody, we'll keep up to date on this one, as this one could be our first big one of the year. Looking at our North Atlantic sea surface temperature anomalies, and we are above baseline again, 0.170. This is only the third time above baseline since April, 4 including April, as far as measurements of above baseline. The El Nino prediction, wow, it's really shot up here over the last several days. And let's take a look. It's at 1.485. Earlier today it was almost at 1.5. Let's take a look. I'll go ahead and refresh this. This is from the 4th of November. Go ahead and refresh these numbers. Let's take a look real quick before we do. We've got 29s all across the center of this El Nino region 3-4 with a 30 right here at the end and another 30. Okay? I guess I could get my handy dandy little circle out. I was talking about this lower region here. I want to watch these temperatures and see if they change, because according to this graph, we should see these go up. Let's update it. Not much change. There was, however, this right here did go up to 30. These 29s held true. These 29s, I think, one changed from 28 to 29. So slight warming again in the El Nino 3-4. And again, a weak Modaki El Nino is between the temperature range of 0.750 above baseline through 1.25 degrees Celsius above baseline. And we're still below that. So we're still in a very weak El Nino pattern right now. Take another look at our sea ice extent. I got turned on to this last night. I think this is something that's going to be part of the show. Obviously, we're not going to see the daily growth as clearly as we usually would if we looked at it from month to month, but still something I want to make relevant, part of the show. It looks like some areas are actually gaining ice right now as we speak, and which is interesting. And I'll go ahead and show this again, this graph here. This gray line up here is representing 1979, or is it? No, let's get the real numbers in here. Since I got called out, I don't want anybody thinking I'm cheating you guys here. All right, so yesterday we talked about the ice growth recently and how rapid it's been. On November 2nd, we were sitting at 8.034 million square kilometers. That's jumped up 0.4 in value. So now we're up to 8.43 million square kilometers for November 4th. Now let's take a look at November 4th's gains back here in 79, the average, the 3rd to the 4th. Guys, not even a full value of 0.1. So the growth is slower. The growth is slower from this green line that this individual wanted me to use to show everybody. But right now, compared to back then, the growth. I mean, look at you guys. I'll get this out of the way. Take a look at this right here. Look how this line is going up like this. And the trend makes it, I mean, I'm sure it'll flatten out at some point, but to me, this trend looks a lot closer than what it was here or here. So it was already trying to rival sea ice extent, and now I think we're starting to see some rapid growth. As I'm displaying right now, it's growing at a faster rate than it was compared to this 1979 through 1990 average. So again, just trying to lay the facts out there, folks. Take one more look at that snow cover that we're going to have by the 15th, and possibly more than that. In fact, looking at that snow, I wouldn't be surprised that that light green area is anywhere from a foot to a foot and a half of snow. So that would be a significant snowstorm. And I tell you, if I got to look at this one more time. I'm curious to see which way the winds are coming out. It's a good thing that the winds aren't blowing directly west as well, because that could have mixed in with lake effect snow at the back end. In fact, it might actually, as the storm takes off from the area on the 16th, that right there could be some minor lake effect snow, maybe additional 3 to 4 inches after that. So Buffalo, Western Pennsylvania, Northeast Ohio, you guys will definitely need your snow shovels by next weekend if this current model holds up. Kind of going all over the place tonight. We've been interrupted twice, so I wanted to kind of get some of these important parts out. I left a link in the description for about the crops situation. And Mari and I got an interesting message from a subscriber. She has letting us know about the crops that have failed miserably in southern Ohio. Now, I want to state that not all crops in Ohio were failing. Corn and soybeans yields are actually doing really well. But it's the other stuff and in between that's failing right now. And what I like about this article here, and I'm not going to go into it word for word, but you always hear about the AGW crowd talking about how that if we have warming, that it's going to be detrimental to our climate and our crop will be different. But yet, we're showing evidence, once again, the truth, that's showing that we are actually, the warmer climate has actually helped yields for crops such as corn and soybeans and other crops that do very well anyway in the United States. But I thought it was interesting that there was a study done about this and how it proves that a warmer climate, more CO2 obviously, does indeed do better for agriculture. And this is a very descriptive article here. I'll leave the link in the description. Also, I just wanted to point out there is a link for the actual paper. It's open access, which those of you who read peer-reviewed work, you understand that there are some times where you have to pay a small fee to open up this paper and read it and understand it. And I don't think that, to me, the work that goes into this, it's kind of like the tip jar for these folks, these scientists who dedicate years of research and information that goes into these reports. And these are peer-reviewed, folks. So check it out when you get a chance, how it talks about warming climate, more CO2, greening effect. Obviously, NASA told us that this year earlier, which led, now let me refresh this. NASA told us earlier in 2018 that CO2, the one fact right now that we do know for sure, is that CO2 is a greening effect. And that NASA would not confirm that it's a greenhouse gas that traps heat, and that's why we're warming. They won't confirm the CO2 for that, but they will confirm that it is the main driver in the greening effect, which I don't think anybody will deny that. Yeah, let's do the mantastic claims requires mantastic evidence. Michael Mann, here we go. Climate change was behind this summer's extreme weather, he says. November 3rd, 2018. Summer 2018 saw an unprecedented spat of extreme floods, droughts, heat waves, wildfire breakouts across North America, Europe, and Asia. The scenes played out on our television screens and our social media feeds. This is, as I stated at the time, the face of climate change. It's not rocket science. I like how the editor here adds the ... silence. Like, really? Climate scientists have become increasingly comfortable talking about these connections. Really? Our study shows that climate change is making that behavior more common, giving us a disastrous European heat wave of 2003 that killed with more than 30,000 people that perished. Actually, this article corrects Mr. Mann and allows him to understand that there was more than 70,000 people that died in this heat wave crisis that we had. It says right here, I gotta look at this. This is something I kind of overlooked here, apparently. Wow. 1540. Goodness. So this heat wave, if they do have accurate records that go back on a time scale, apparently this heat wave was the hottest heat wave in 2003 since 1540. Unbelievable. But, you know, he goes on to talk about, what else? See, 15,000 of more than 30,000 alleged heat-related deaths occur in France. Apparently, climate change killed at least 12,000 more people than the heat wave. It says here you would think that leave a mark. I went to World Health Organization mortality database to look for that mark, and I didn't find it. He says, I did find a very interesting correlation. This is where I wanted to pick it back up. He's quoting the devastating 2011 Texas drought, during which ranchers in Oklahoma lost 24% and 17% of their cattle. He says, I lived in Texas since 1981. 2011, 2012 drought was really bad, almost as bad as the last picture showed drought. I downloaded the historical Palmer Drought Severity Index for Texas from NOAA. I also plotted the expected frequency of expected record events in random time series. Gives a formula here for that. And then he talks about how the cumulative probability says that 5 records should have been set between 1895 and 2011. In reality, the PDSI drought records were established or broken in 1895 on schedule, 1897 on schedule, 1902 3 years earlier expected, 1911 13 years earlier than expected, which also we had a record flood in Dayton, Ohio as well in 1911, 1918 54 years earlier than expected, and 1957 was 74 years earlier than expected. Interesting time series here. But then I'll go ahead and read the last quote here because the editor loves this as well. The person who wrote this. A little quote here. Where'd it go? Right here. Mr. Mann goes on to say that just as climate models almost certainly underestimate the impact of climate change has already had on such weather extremes, projections from these models also likely underestimate future increases in these types of events. Our study indicates that we can expect many more summers like 2018 or worse. Climate change deniers love to point to scientific uncertainty as justification for inaction on climate, but uncertainty is a reason for more concerted action. Now here's the thing. Climate change deniers. I want to note this real quick. Usually we are climate deniers. Climate change deniers is probably more proper, and I can tell you right now, there was a picture on Twitter of Joe Bastardi and Michael Mann. It would look like sharing a glass of wine at a restaurant somewhere and having a probably interesting conversation. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for that. But I really think that this quote here from Mann, climate change deniers, is probably influenced from the voice of reason of Joe Bastardi. So I'm hoping that there was something that got through with that little conversation. It looks like it's just that. But the point of this, they point things out here in this article, but Michael Mann starts off at the very beginning of this, quoting things. It's almost like he's reading a trailer for a movie that's coming out this summer, 2019. The world is over as we know it. And that narrative, we were told, years ago, Mr. Gore told us that we wouldn't have normal snow anymore past 2014. Really? Because it's November 15th on this map, and over half of the United States will have its first snowflakes flying. Half of the country, more than half. If I had to guess, 65% of the country is going to get some snow showers by the 15th of November. I know, some places get snow this early. It's not that big of a deal, but it's just another point that people like Michael Mann and Al Gore, who make all these claims about, catastrophe of global warming and blah, 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 blah. And yet here I find a article that there's for starters, there is a study out there that corn and other crops do very well in warmer temperatures. They explain the evaporation and the relationship it has with the crop and how it cools. Yeah. This is fun. I do enjoy this though, guys. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy this kind of work. I think it's important that these channels like us continue to do the work. And, just like earlier here before, we've been on now the air for 21 minutes with no interruptions. knocking on wood. But the first 10 minutes each, the first two 10-minute periods, we were interrupted twice, booted offline, almost identically the same time we were last time we went on the air. But I think a lot of it has to do is that we do a very good job at getting the truth out in layman's terms. And here's an article I wanted to bring up because, once again, Trump has been interviewed about climate change again. And this is today, actually 11/05/2018. This morning, President Donald Trump pushed back on reporters who confronted him with a government report on global warming, saying he knew of scientists that are very much disputed. I'm quoting Donald Trump. Well, I think we've contributed. We certainly contribute. I mean, there's certain pollutants that go up and there's certain things that happen. Hey, that's real intelligent. But anyway, Trump said in an interview with Access reporters that aired on HBO Sunday night. The reporters thought bringing a copy of the most recent National Climate Assessment would make it harder for Trump to question its findings, and it didn't work. The interviewer says that the scientists say the overwhelming cause for the last 50 years is human activity, to which Trump responded, I don't necessarily agree. Trump EPA pushes back on the numerous errors in CNN report and other reports as well. The latest NCA released in 2017, so there's no convincing alternative explanation for recent global warming other than human emissions of greenhouse gases. The report was put together by federal agencies and outside climate scientists. Well, okay, great. But I think Trump is also, and people were saying here they were concerned or worried that Trump wouldn't even release this report last year, and he did, on time. But here's how he dealt with it. And he seemed to take a lukewarming stance on global warming during the interview. Lukewarmers agree that humans contribute to warming, but that contribution is probably much less than the NCA, and many other scientists say it is. Is there climate change? Yeah. Will it go back to this? I mean, will it change back? Probably, Trump said. Men and women, we do have an impact, but I don't believe the impact is merely what some say and other scientists that dispute those findings very strongly. Again, he is putting an emphasis on other scientists that dispute these very strongly, very much. He's adding the word very in his quote. Trump also stressed that the climate science community is not monolithic when it comes to global warming. Indeed, while most scientists likely back the findings of the NCA United Nations assessments, and some scientists do dispute them. Trump said he wanted all points of view to be included in government climate reports. I want everybody to report whatever they want, but ultimately I'm the one that makes the final decision. I can also give you reports where people very much dispute that, Trump said. So he's talking about releasing that NCA last year, but he also has reports that are disputing what the NCA is saying. You know, you do have scientists that very much dispute it. Here we go again, very much dispute it. I want to make sure that we have the cleanest air, and that's kind of a weird quote in that you go from disputing, man-made global warming to have clean air. There's the lukewarm part. Former Environmental and Protection Agency Administrator Scott Pruitt tried to conduct a red team exercise for climate science, much like the military intelligence communities do to test strategies. What this red team exercise was going to be was a government debate on climate change. Yeah, believe that. Scott Pruitt, one of the things that he was going to try to do was to bring that to the forefront and let everybody see it on public TV. He wanted it in series and have a multi-event of debate about climate change and what's really happening. So I appreciate the Daily Caller and, of course, what's up with that for having their commentary added to this as well. But they point out the several things that I also point out as well, which I got from this channel or this website as well. Trump does not agree with the NCA. Trump does not agree with the IPCC. Trump does not believe that man contributes to global warming. And how can you blame him? When you've got people saying the sky is falling, and you look at the ice totals, okay? And they're rapidly growing right now. They're growing at a faster rate than they were in this little green line that certain individual wanted me to show everybody, because I'm not telling the truth if I don't put that line up there. But what we're showing right here is possibly some historic ice growth that is happening right before our eyes. Maybe not. Maybe this levels off and we get another warmer period of time where we have temperatures above baseline again up in the Arctic. But right now they're recovering pretty good from where we had October, which was one of the warmest periods in the Arctic. And also want to note too, in October, the beginning of October, there was some significant bump in the sea ice extent down here before it kind of leveled off and really has gotten going here towards the end. Like I said, that gap to me looks like it's narrowing, and it'll be interesting to see as the fall and winter continues of how much ice extent we do actually see growing. Right now, looking at it firsthand, this is about where it should be for this time of year. This is where we were in September. Typical when we're recovering. This is a melt from a full melt from the summer. And now we're starting to recover. So all those people out there, and I want to show this as well. You don't see, other than this area right here near Alaska, where the sea ice is past that pink line. And if you look here in November already, we see areas that are exceeding that orange line, that mean average right near Greenland and parts of northern Canada. They're starting to fill up with ice. Greenland is looking pretty healthy for this time of year, actually, if you ask me. So we'll keep our eyes on the situation. We'll keep our eyes on the weather. I think it's definitely worth to keep your eyes on this forecast between November 13th and the 14th. It looks like Wednesday it's getting its act together on the 14th, but really it starts to take shape overnight into late Wednesday into overnight Thursday of next week. So we've still got about 7 to 10 days before we see this storm. But right now, as I've said the last couple broadcasts, it does look like this might be our first big system of the 2018-2019 season so far. With that being said, I wanted to pull Mario over here to say hello and tell everyone thank you for being in the chat like you always do, and just all the nice things that you relay from the chat.
I just gush over all my friends and family in the chat. Jake, we have some great people. We have a great bunch here. Lots of new faces, so welcome all who are new to the chat and everyone coming back again. It's a pleasure. Kat O'Neill did a super chat. She said, keep up the great work. So thank you very much,
Thank you, Kat.
Really appreciate that. So, not a lot going on here. Rob was just chatting, and you know how Rob is. Hi, Rob.
It's Monday. We'll give it some time. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you for tuning in to tonight's show. Please remember to like and share and subscribe, and go ahead and hit that notification bell. Hopefully it'll still push the notification, but man, I tell you, YouTube's been a little glitchy here lately. That's going to do it for us tonight, guys. Thank you for tuning in once again. We'll talk soon.